Hello guys, hello, how are you doing today? So in today's video we are going to be talking about deploying your Golang code, right? So you have written different Golang applications and they run on your local computer. So we're going to go over how to host your Golang code on Google Cloud Run. Now we'll be using Google Cloud Run and Docker. Most, if not every, cloud infrastructure uses Docker images. So the first half of this video, I will just basically go over what Docker is, and in the next half we would go over deploying to Docker on your local computer and then pushing that image to run on Google Cloud Run. Like I said before, most cloud infrastructures kind of run on Docker. So everything from DigitalOcean to Hero Code, they all use Docker images. And I think, if I'm not quite sure, for a fact, Kubernetes and Docker, like as a technology, was built using Golang. So Golang is actually a pretty good language of choice if you are going to be mostly building for the cloud, because a lot of these services and infrastructure were built using Golang. So Golang and Docker work really hand in hand. Alright guys, so we are going to go over our project. So let's see. So I currently have opened an already built project. So this is the book server that we created in the last video series. So this, let's try run it just to see that it runs locally, right? So we are gonna cd into the cmd folder, and we're gonna say go run main.go. So this should run. Let me take this up a little bit. Alright, so yeah, it works. So let's just go and check our server. So we can see get books. If we click on that, okay, wow, okay, let's change the ports. It's port 8090. So yeah, it works. So it fetches our books. So now what we're going to do is we are going to deploy this code. So what we're going to do right now is we are going to deploy this code to Docker, right? So let's just go over to our browser. So this is the Docker website, docker.com. I would attach all the links to this video. So you can see blah 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 blah. So if you just come here, you go to get started. You may need to install Docker to your local computer if you don't have it. So you may have to install the Docker desktop app, which allows you visually see all your images and also your containers. So I would also go over what an image and what a container is briefly as well. So install this, make sure you have Docker installed your computer so you can use the command line tools. So yeah, so once you install this, I'm just going to go straight to the documentation. So yeah, so this is where we are, and I think you should also like read this because it will make things kind of easier to understand. But if you have it installed, then we can get started. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to like briefly explain what a container is and what a container image is. So simply put, a container image a container image is the accurate term, or an image is a predefined unit of instructions that defines how to build a container. The image defines like everything you need to build a container, and a container is basically a running image. So an image that has been like run on a computer. Now, Docker exists because it allows you to just, once you build that image, you can scale that up by adding more images. You can scale it down by removing images, and this allows you to not really worry about the underlying infrastructure of the system to which you are running the images, because Docker encompasses every single thing you need to run an image within the image, including all the libraries, frameworks. Every single thing is it's I'm not using the right words. It's encompassed, or I've gotten the word, guys. But yeah, it's encompassed into the image. So this makes it easier to run your code across various systems, various servers. It allows you to scale, and also it allows you to build your code with various languages, because you don't really care about the underlying infrastructure, because an image can be built for any kind of code base. So let me just give you a concrete example. So if I build an app using Node, all I have to do is just add the Node.js image into my Docker image and put in all the instructions to compile and run my Node.js code within that image. And that image can be run on any computer anywhere in the world without anybody really having to understand Node.js or whatever the code actually does, right? So I can have an image on Node, one on Ruby, and one on Golang, and they can still communicate with themselves and do whatever they have to do. So this is why most of the cloud uses Docker these days. So it's a pretty interesting technology. So if you are learning backend, you would definitely be running into this a lot of times. So let's get started. So the first thing we are going to do, so we would be using the documentation for help, but I kind of have an idea of how to go about it. So so the first thing we'll do is that we need to create a Docker file. So let's close this. So we need to create a Docker file. So this file essentially is a set of instructions that defines how to create our image. So let's go to the documentation as well. Let's scroll tutorial. So that they explain what a container is as well, what a container image is as well. So you should most definitely read through the documentation. But yeah, so what we are going to do is define a Docker file, and in the documentation they explain how to go about it, and I will just do it and I can't explain it, right? So on the root of your code, in the root file, you create a file called Docker file. Ensure it's in the roots, guys, right? Ensure it's in the roots. So once you have that file, there's some instructions that you should ideally put. So these I think these are the general um, structures, and this is an example for Node.js, but I would um, be building for Golang, so it would be different, right? All right, guys. So the first line describes the syntax of the Docker file, and then it's important for you to add this line at the beginning of each file, although it's not required, right? So the next thing we will do is we will say from. As you can see, we are receiving some auto suggestions, and I think this is because we have Docker installed, and we also have all the Docker tools like VS Code. Like I've installed all the Docker tools, so you may have to install it to be able to see all these suggestions, right? So this from tells Docker what should I use as the base image for this your container image that you're trying to build. And since we are working with Golang, we will be using the Go base image. So let's go over to Docker, and if we just search Docker Golang, we will see the official hub for where Docker Golang images are. And if you go over to the tags, so if you click on the tags and you scroll down, you can see the list of images available. So these are the list of images that you can use. So we are gonna, so we can use latest to fetch the latest one. And I think that's probably what we would use, or actually I think we should use a specific one. Let's use this one. So we're going to copy this. So from, in all caps, Golang, right? Then the tag. So that's all we have to do. So as soon as we have our Golang, we need to do something else, right? We need to run this command, and I'll explain the command in a little bit. Build base. So I ran into an error before because I didn't add this, and I'll explain what this does. So like this just like runs all your GCC C compiler stuff that are required for some Go packages to run. So as soon as you have your Golang image, you need to add this line. It installs some other dependencies, like I think C++ or so, that would require to run some Golang code. So you're required to add this, right? Okay. So the next thing we will do is that we're going to set our working directory. So what this means is that we want to set the name for what's our, where would store everything, right? The name of the directory. So let me just space this. So the name we would use is /app. You can use any name you want, but once you have set this here, every commands you use afterwards, like copy, cmd, and run, would run in this specific directory. So that's the reason why we set it. So the next thing we will do is we're going to copy. We are going to copy. So the first thing is the source. So if you check, we want to copy everything in this folder, and the next thing is the destination. So we want to copy everything to the directory that we're in currently. So that's why I put dots dots. So I think that should be clear. So the next thing we are going to do is check the documentation. All right, so I copied everything. So the next thing we'll do is we need to run all our Go commands. So like in Node.js, you would have to do like yarn install, but in Go we don't use yarn, we use go mod. So what we would do here is we would use the run command, and we would say go mod download. So this would download all our go mod thingies, right? All our modules that we need to run our specific code. So we have that. So the next thing we are gonna do is sorry guys, let me see. I don't know why this thing is selected. I don't know how it's selected. Okay, it's fixed. Okay, so the next thing we will do is we will change our directory from this one to where our main.go file is, and our main.go is within the app, which is like our core folder, and cmd. So if you check the code here, you can see the main.go is inside the cmd, so it's here. So we need to change the folder to the appropriate one. And the next thing we're going to do is run our go build. So we're going to say run go build, and we would set the flag to the operating system, and let's give like a space, and we'll say book server for the name. So yeah, so this is what we'll do next, and the last thing we'll do is expose the port at port 8080. And I think this is all we need to do, so let's save. Alright guys, so essentially we define the go image that we wish to use. Then we add some dependencies that we would also need, like I think C and some stuff like GCC and stuff like that. We set the directory that we want to save so we create a directory called /app, and we copy everything from our current directory to the /app. We run go mod download, and then we switch directories again to the CMD, and in the CMD we run go build, right? And then we're exposing the server. So hope that makes sense. I think it makes sense. So let's try and run. So let's close this. And I think what we need to do is come back here, cd to our core, cd back to the CloudHost file where our Docker file is, and we are going to try build our image. So let's go to the documentation and see how to build the image. Okay, so I think we need to use docker run, but I don't even think the image has been built yet. Let me see. Yeah, so docker build. So let's build the image, and I would explain this as well. So the docker build allows you to tag your images, and we just put a tag. We didn't put a version, but we can. So I can say version 1, and this dot means check this specific directory for the docker file. So let's see if this works. So we're gonna I don't know if I have docker open yet. I think I may have to open it. Yeah, it's not yet open, so I need to run my docker. So okay, I'm setting it up right now. So let's try that again. Let's try that again. Okay, so I think that worked finally. Okay, so I forgot to add one last bit of code. So after you build the Go file, obviously it will be stored as slash book server. You have to use this command to run it. So cmd would actually run the book server, and I think that's when the image can fully build. So I think that's what's happening now. It's running the go build, and as soon as it's done with the build, it will move to the next step, and hopefully everything should be good. Okay guys, so we have successfully built our image after it took like a pretty long time. I kind of had to fast forward it, but to check the images you have built, just type the command docker. I think I'm gonna have to raise this up, and actually I'm gonna clear everything just so we're back at the top. Okay, so just type the Docker, then images. So you can see the image is called getting started, even though I kind of wanted to change the name. I don't know why I forgot, but anyways, version 1. So yeah, I should have used a different name like book server, but anyways, you can see the image now, and I also put a tag to the image, and that's version 1, right? Okay, cool. So now let's run this. So to run the image, we just say docker run, then the image name, right? And in this case it's getting started. I think you can also use the image ID as well. Okay, I think I may have to use the ID. Let's check to be sure. Okay, so to essentially run, we are going to use this command. Let's do this. So we're gonna say image name is getting started, and the ports we want to run this on our machine is port this, and for the port on the computer we can change that to this, and I think we're good. What the hell? I think I may have to put the actual version. Okay, so that works. So if we go to our Docker dashboard, we should see our image running. So yep, we're up and running, and let's test this, guys. So as you can see, our code is running. So I would explain the run command and what all these flags mean. So essentially, what I essentially did is with the run command, right, with /d, it means detach it, right? So it means after we run it, we don't want it to run on our current terminal. So we want it to run on Docker. Then the p tag publishes access to the Docker ports through our own local ports. So the first number is the port on our local machine we want to use, and then the second number is the port on the Docker machine that we want access to. So on our local machine, we're using port 8090, and on the Docker machine as well, we're using port 8090. The last one is the image name and the tag, and the tag we use is version 1. So that's how we're able to run it. And if you check the Docker dashboard, we can see we have it running. You can see, and if you see here, we're able to make a request, right? And to show you guys that it's actually the Docker that is actually doing the request, I would stop it. So I've stopped it. As you can see, it's stopped. So if we try and make the request, you can see we get an error, refuse connection by the server. I can start it up again. I'm going to try and make the request again, and you can see we get the response. So you can see how fast it was for me to start up and end a Docker server. So that's one of the reasons why people use Docker. So now we have the Docker image running on our local machine. That's cool. So the next thing we need to do is we need to host it on the cloud, right? So we want to host this on Google Cloud Run. So I will explain how we would go about it, and hopefully it makes sense.